Hello, I'm Naoki back in another Now story time. Today is the 7th September, also known as the 16th murder anniversary of the death of Mrs. Jane Parangan La Puebla. What stood out from this cold murder was the fact that the body was chopped up and it was disposed in two different locations. Her severed head and limbs were found in the city, while the torso was found in a reservoir. The deceased, Mrs. Jane, was a 26-year-old Filipino national who was married and a mother of a 9-year-old boy. The sole reason that Mrs. Jane came to Singapore was to work as a foreign domestic helper. However, things did not go according to plan. Her wishes for a better life in Singapore was short-lived, as she was murdered by her best friend, Mrs. Gwen Galliano Aguila. Mrs. Gwen was a 29-year-old Filipino national who was married and a mother of 2 young boys. Like Mrs. Jane, she came to Singapore to earn her keep as a domestic helper, but she was said to be moonlighting as an illegal money lender. Please note that this is just an assumption that she's working as a money lender, and all this is based on a forum, so this is not concrete evidence. So I'm not going to go in depth about that moonlighting job, but I'm just going to keep moving on with the story. According to a news source, Mrs. Jane needed $2,000 urgently, so she sought Mrs. Gwen's help. Seeing this opportunity to earn a little commission, Mrs. Gwen borrowed $1,000 from an unnamed third Filipino friend, and she took out $1,000 from her own savings, and then proceeded to charge Mrs. Jane 20% interest, which was fairly steep, but both parties agreed, so the deal was on, and Mrs. Gwen passed $2,000 to Mrs. Jane on the 7th of September 2005. Mrs. Jane came over to Mrs. Gwen's employee's apartment, and as they were cooking together, suddenly they started fighting over the $2,000. On the 8th of September 2005, Mrs. Gwen went to Musafa Center and bought a few items: a chopper, axe, canvas, latex glove, detergent, bedsheet, pillowcase, and garbage bags. Mrs. Gwen then dismembered the head and the limbs first, and this began the gruesome attempt of removing and disposing the bloody evidence. At 12:35 p.m., Mrs. Gwen took a taxi to a park next to the mural wall at Orchard. She placed the garbage bag in a dustbin near the vicinity. Upon reaching back home at about 1:25 p.m., she placed the torso in a luggage bag and then proceeded to take the taxi to the Marichi Reservoir. She placed the bag with the torso next to a footpath by the bus stop along Lornie Road. She attempted to confuse the police by disposing the body in 2 separate locations. However, the police was not easily fooled. Early morning on the 9th September 2005, a sports bag was found near Orchard MRT station containing a severed human head and limbs. The head was found in a red plastic bag, while the legs and arms were placed in a separate bag. However, when the forensic analyzed the body part, a bite was found on one of the arms, which was later matched to Mrs. Gwen's dental records. Early morning on the 10th of September 2005, a suitcase was found in Marichi Reservoir containing a human torso. Also in the bag includes a document with a letter addressed to Mr. Parkrash. The address was clearly stated on the letter, so the police wasted no time. They took this piece of crucial evidence and headed down to the mentioned address to arrest Mrs. Gwen. However, upon being arrested, Mrs. Gwen denied all involvement in the case. On the 11th of September 2005, the aggressor, Mrs. Gwen, was charged for murder. However, on April 2006, her murder charge was reduced to manslaughter due to diminished responsibility. While waiting for trial, she was diagnosed with mass depression. On the 15th of May 2006, Mrs. Gwen's trial started. During the trial, it was brought up by her defense lawyer that it was just in that moment she lost control and she was in no way harmful to the people around her, stating that Mrs. Gwen is unlikely to commit another offense. Additionally, the mayor of Tagulin, Mrs. Gwen's hometown, had pledged to provide the required emotional and social support she required upon her returning to the Philippines. On the 29th May 2006, Mrs. Gwen was charged for manslaughter and sentenced to 10 years imprisonment. On 2nd October 2005, the deceased Mrs. Jane's body was flown back to the Philippines for proper ritual and burial. A little insight to this co-murder. This case is eerily similar to the Floor murderer. Her case shook and disrupted the bilateral relation between Philippines and Singapore. I'll talk about Floyd in a future video. That's the end of this Now Story Time. What cool cases should I cover next? Let me know in the comment section down below. Bye! Things did not go according to plan.